Hey everyone, welcome to the 1.6 developer live stream. Today I'm here with Danis as always. Hey Danis, how are you doing?
Hello, how's it going?
And my name is Beedyboy, and today we are going to be talking about update 1.6 part 1. We will have two streams. The second stream will be later this week, so please keep an eye out of that, but we will also talk about it a bit now, so you will find out everything. Don't worry, and I guess we can already dive into it, and let's see what's new, what's coming in this big update. So as I mentioned, part 1 of update 1.6, we are looking at all the features that are coming in this update. So yeah, we will have two streams. Today we are focusing on the features, and later this week it's gonna be all about Desalle, the new map. I know you guys are super excited about it. We see all the comments on socials, on Discord, on Reddit. We see all the memes. We are very happy about it, but don't worry, it is almost here. We will have a huge stream basically talking about everything that you need to know about that, so just keep an eye out, and we will announce everything in the upcoming days, so don't worry. Just keep an eye on our socials. But today, in the first part of the stream, as I mentioned, it's gonna be all about the features, and the test servers for this update is gonna open later today. We will probably announce it during the stream, so you may want to stick around until then. And this will include all the features that are in update 1.6. And there are some things that you should pay some attention to, because it is gonna be a huge update. Maybe Dennis, you want to talk a bit about this part?
Yeah, maybe just quickly regarding the two different streams we have. So what's really super important for us right now is we want to ensure that when the map comes online, actually 1.6 is in a very good state. So that's why we have chosen to have a few days of just 1.6 without the map, so we can see if everything's working out. Gives us a chance to do some stability updates if needed, just see how things are going, so that we then have the map come in a good situation. So that's why we have this 2-stage in there at the moment, just make sure the quality is there.
Exactly, and yeah, as I mentioned, there's a few things you should be aware of. First of all, the build size for this update it can be up to 30 gigabytes, so please prepare your internet and start downloading as soon as we announce that it's there. This is part phase because the map is in the update, obviously, so that is a huge chunk, but we also have other things in there, like improvement to security, for our anti-cheat system and such, and also all the features that are in the update. So please just download it as you can, because it may take some time. It is one of our biggest updates to date, I believe.
Yeah, we thought it's the best timing to combine it with this because of these changes we needed to do, and they're just important because of security updates, the way the encryption works, etc. The problem is you have to re-download then obviously the content for it, so that's just unavoidable. But you will have to kind of bite the bullet a little bit with 1.6. We thought that 1.6 might be a good update for that though, and just keep in mind that it affects the test server, but it will also obviously affect then when it goes to live after the test period.
Exactly, and yeah, we will have another stream this week, which we will announce super shortly. So like in the next days, basically, because it's this week. And there we will talk about the new map. And basically the new map will be available sometime after the stream. So you guys really don't have to wait that much anymore. So don't worry. And you will find everything about that. So as I said, don't worry. It's coming very soon. I know it's kind of a mean, but I can't emphasize enough how soon it's coming, okay? And yeah, so let's dive into our maybe biggest topic today, which is a big change to the game, and it's matchmaking changes. I think we have mentioned it previously on our previous dev stream slightly, what we are planning to do, but now it's here. And I think Dennis will take over and explain the whole system, because it's actually a lot of information to go through. So good luck.
This is going to be a bit of a mix between obviously recapping, so everybody knows what we're talking about, as well as then highlighting what visual changes, transparency changes we've been making to the system in order to show it better, but also what tuning has happened. So it's quite a bit of a quite an extensive topic. So bear with us. This will take a moment, and obviously we'll also make sure that's going to be questions then at the end of the stream if you guys have further to talk more about it.
Exactly. So to start it off, we have a brand new star system, which is to replace the arrow system that you guys have seen before. So you know, when you saw an enemy hunter, it always had an arrow up, down, double down, or like in the middle. But now this whole system is completely replaced, and we have a star rating, which you can see right here.
Yeah, so what's an important part here is that the matchmaking rating, which is the what we refer as MMR, this is the ELO system that we're using in the game. This is how people are basically rated by the system in terms of how skilled they are, depending on who they kill, who they get killed by, and depending on your position in the ranking and their position, you lose more or you gain more or less. So it's like, if you want to read up on it, it's like an ELO system. The system itself didn't really change much because it's been like that for years, basically, for Hunt Showdown. But what we've been doing is making sure that the system becomes more visible to you guys, because so far the only thing that we've been doing is we've kind of given you a bit of a an abstract kind of a relative rating, right? That was the arrows that we had on the system so far, which showed you how much more skilled or how less skilled were you compared to the guy that you killed on the left screen, for example, or also in the summary screen, the guys that you killed during the round. So that arrow system is basically just telling you that you're better or worse than someone, but it never tells you where you and that other guy or that other person was on the whole ranking. So we're changing that to be something which is a bit more specific. And again, the system underneath is the same as before. It's just more transparent for you guys now. So what it means is that you will now have the chance to basically understand how good of a player or how bad of a player you are inside the system, and that will just make it a bit more transparent.
Exactly, and as Dennis mentioned, these stars are basically showing a value that's hidden to everyone, and that can go from 0 to 5,000 MMR. So the stars are just an indication of your placement in between those numbers. And we will have a very nice image here that showcases that with a nice bell curve.
Exactly. So this is something which is really important to understand with the star ratings. So in the background, as I mentioned, we still have our MMR, our ELO score running, right, which goes from a range of 0 to 5,000. It's a score that we've been using for a long time, but we've kind of keeping hidden, and also we continue keeping hidden from the players to a certain extent, because we do not want to display these exact numbers. Instead, what we're going to do, we're giving you the stars which are defining a range of that score. And as you can see on that graph there, this bell curve, you basically see that the majority of the players in the game, they are somewhere between 3 to 4, 4.5 stars somewhere, right? This is where you see the majority of the players on how they're grouped within this ELO system. And this is like nothing new. This is just how it is basically already before we make this more visible to you. So there's actually very few players that are on the lower end of the spectrum, mostly the newer players. And then there's also very few players that kind of break out to the top, or in this case to the right side, like which we now classify as 5 or 6 stars. That's just a very, very, very small subset of the community. The majority of the players, and therefore the majority of stars you will likely encounter during the games, will be in the center area there between like 3.5, maybe and 4.5 stars.
Exactly. And now that we talked about how the stars are, how they work, let's talk about what you actually going to see in the lobby during your game and after your game. We have these 3 bigger categories, and let's start off with before the game. So how do we display MMR before a match?
Yes. So as you mentioned, like we want to talk about like what's before, what's during, what's after the game. So before the game, this is when you're in the lobby, right? This is when you want to understand how good am I? Like how would the system classify me in terms of skill? How good are my partners? So what does it mean for us as a team? Because it's something that we've kind of stressed out in previous streams already, that the matchmaking system obviously is trying to match teams versus teams, right? An ELO system is on an individual basis, but in this case, because we have teams fighting teams, you have to make sure that there is a kind of an average score based on the team's performance. And that can mean that you have to have like a very experienced player together with like 2 not so experienced players form a team, and then we need to understand what does that mean for the rating of the team overall. So what is that MMR for the team? So you need to understand what you're getting into, basically, the transparency that comes with that. So you can add the next one there.
Yeah. So basically, as Dennis said, it reveals more information about the MMR, but stars aren't equal to the matchmaking brackets we currently have in place. It's just an indication of the range.
So this is something which is very important, because in blog posts and in previous streams, we've also talked about brackets, and we just want to make sure that there's no confusion about this as we talk about it now. The stars that we're introducing are a global rating. So it doesn't matter what server you are playing on, whether you're playing on Europe, whether you're playing on Oceania, whether you're playing on US East. It's a global value that doesn't change depending on the server you're playing on. It's always going to be exactly that rating that you will have in the matchmaking system. However, since we have server regions that are smaller and server regions which are bigger, we're also using brackets to define how people are grouped together on these regions. So for example, a larger region will have more of these brackets, which means there's a more granular, there's a finer separation of skill, as the bracket tries to kind of take people from a specific matchmaking range and group them together into games. So if there's fewer brackets, that means each bracket covers a larger range on the scale. That means you might get people that are on the top end fighting the people on the lower end, and the further they are apart, the more different they might be in skill, right? So that means in general, that's a matchmaking session or matchmaked session on a smaller region, just because there isn't enough meat in the system. There's enough people, obviously, to populate the system. We'll have less fair games overall than, for example, a game on a larger populated region like US East and Europe, because there's more brackets, or we can have more brackets there, and therefore there's a finer like allocation of players to the specific games. That's just something which is very important to understand. Brackets don't mean stars. That's two different things. Stars is a global rating. The brackets is just a method we use on the servers in the regions in order to prevent empty servers and still find enough people to kind of like get into the game. But it can have an impact on the quality of the sessions you will have naturally, as it depends on the size.
Yeah, just quickly to the people that asked what is MMR, it stands for your matchmaking rating. So it's the number of your ELO basically. So that's MMR means matchmaking rating. I hope that is clear like that.
And then there is something that we call a match MMR. So that's something which is important to understand here. You have your personal rating. So this is the score by which the system individually classifies you. But as I said, as you try to play with other players and as certain like modifiers are applied to it, which we're going to talk about in a second, for example, you play as a solo versus like other teams, you might get a bit of a bonus or like a modification to that score in order to help you out. And the actual match MMR is that final score after these modifiers have been added, after the average of the team has been calculated. And this is what the actual system will use to find a game for you. So we can maybe have a look at that in one of the screenshots.
Yeah, but before that, we also have some active modifiers, which are super essential for this, and you will be able to see those as well in the screenshots. But I think it's enough if we talk about those on the screenshots themselves. But basically, just to preface it, we have no modifier, a weak modifier, or medium, or a strong. And what that means, let's just take a look at it.
All right, so here we have the first screenshot. So this is one example of a lobby, right? Like, so you have your team already assembled, and what you can see here is that the central players, so you have like a rating of 5 stars in this case. So the system classifies you as a pretty experienced player. Keep in mind it's a range of 1 to 6. While you have 2 teammates with you, one is considered a 2-star player, and the other one is considered a 3-star player. Now, with the calculation happens in background, keep in mind it's not calculating stars. It's actually still calculating the number that is behind the stars. Each of these stars represent a range. It then presents a match MMR, as you can see on the right side above the start button. And in this case, the team is being considered a 3-star team. So it just gives you basically an abstraction here, because as a trio, that's what we call it the default state. There's no handicaps applied. The calculation of the average is much closer, obviously, to finding an average between the three people involved in this case. And in here, what we see is that because there's 1 good player and 2 not so good players, it kind of lowers the whole team's prognosis of how well it will be doing, and as such treats that team as a 3-star team for the purpose of matchmaking.
Okay, then we have another trio with random invites, so not inviting your friends. And
yeah,
this
so
case,
basically,
yeah,
go ahead, it's fine.
No, I was just saying that in this case, it applies an active modifier of weak, which means since you guys don't know each other, like the team that just invited each other, you have a slight disadvantage. So there is a weak modifier to lower the matchmaking rating slightly.
Yeah, so in this case, as we can see, just like the team is being considered even like half a star lower than previously in the calculation. Again, sometimes you might see the same type of people with the same distribution, and you will see a different match MMR being calculated from that. The important part to recognize here is that just because someone is 3 stars can mean that he is maybe at the lower end of 3 stars or is at the upper end of 3 stars. So even if you see the same amount of stars, it can still mean that with the calculation that actually happens in the background, sometimes it comes to the conclusion it's like half a star more or less than maybe a similar team would be, just because of the actual numbers in the background. But it still gives you a very good indication of how well you're doing. So it's also important that all of these modifiers we're talking about right now, they are already in the game. So they've already been used for the matchmaking purpose for a while. It's just that now it's becoming more transparent how the player can see how they affect the actual game and the matchmaking, and therefore your chance of maybe encountering enemies which are stronger or weaker.
Exactly, and then we have an example for duos as well, same way. Let's look at the invited duo first. And as you can see, it's also a weak modifier applied, because even though they invited each other, they are still playing against threes, which is the default, so there is a weak modifier.
Yeah, so basically the system itself doesn't recognize whether you are playing against teams of 3 or 2s. It just takes the current status of what is your team's composition to calculate the score. So that means in this case that obviously a duo will always have like some handicap on it, while a trio will never have a handicap on it. And that automatically means within the system that a duo will have a bit of an advantage. But obviously, if you just play duos, everybody has the same advantage, which kind of cancels out the effect in practice.
Exactly, and then here is a duo when it's random teammates. And as you can see, now it applies a medium modifier.
Yeah, so in this case, like having like one of the best players here, like with 6 stars, and then having a pretty new player with like 3 stars. So this is like the lower center, lower average. It has a severe impact on what we consider like the team's capabilities, and therefore it drops down to just 3.5 stars in this particular case.
Yeah, and the last example is obviously when you play alone, so you're a solo player, and then you receive a strong modifier.
Yeah, so in this case, there's basically a full star is being chipped off here in this particular example. Again, it could be that like in another example, if you also have 5 stars, maybe it's going to be 4.5 or 3.5 stars, right? It really depends on where you are within the 5-star range, and the modifiers then being used for the calculation. It's also important, and it might take a moment to wrap your head around this a little bit, so bear with us for this. So what it means is basically that the bonus a solo gets, because duos also get a bonus on top, a modifier on top, means that the impact, the bonus that a solo gets in duo games is actually weaker, because you have to take into account that the duos also have a bonus, compared to when solo is playing in trios, where the trios don't have any bonus. And that's how the system kind of like makes sure that a solo player with his duos and a solo player with his trios, like in trio games, will have a different impact on the composition of teams that you will encounter, depending on your matchmaking rating.
Exactly. And that is what you see before the match. Now let's see what you see during the match and what changed when you die.
Can you go back one step quickly, just one second, because I saw one question I would like to comment on. Sure. So someone was just writing like, okay, that doesn't sound like a strong modifier. Yes, that is true, but keep in mind, we've shown this bell curve earlier, right? And the majority of the players, they will actually be within the center, right? It's not a linear progression from 1 star to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's different gaps between that, and that means the majority of the players are between 3.5 and 4.5 stars, and only few players break out to 5 stars. So if you see a 5-star player now turning to a 4-star team for the purpose of the calculation, that actually can indicate a very significant drop, even though if it's just a star here visually. It's just that 5- and 6-star players will be rare to see, because they are basically upper echelon of the player base, while 1- and 2-star players or even 3-star players are rare to see also, because they are mostly the newer players. And it's very unlikely that you will have a 5-star player encounter a 3-star player unless they have been part of teams which overall have been deemed on an equal level. Again, the example of maybe a veteran bringing his new friends along. The veteran has to babysit the friends, so therefore we can't take the veteran skill 1-to-1, but the team will actually be weaker because of that.
Exactly. And yeah, so as I said earlier, let's look at what happens during the game and what we changed. So we completely changed that screen since like this system got completely replaced, and that means that you won't be able to see any skill information when you get killed anymore on that screen. This also means that the reporting tools have been removed as well, but you will have
Here
a
it
brand,
comes.
yeah. You will have a brand new tab that you can click after the game when you are dead, and this will open a whole new menu where you will be able to see all the information after the game, and this will include reporting as well. But we will take a look at this tab just in a second. But first, let's look at how the new death screen looks before then.
Yes. So the important part here is, and again, this is the point where everybody freaks out, I guess, in the chat. I'm not watching the chat right now, but I guess that's going to be the case. So important to understand here is that no functionality is lost. You will actually even get more functionality, but you will get that functionality after the game. So the important part here is that during the match, it's a one-on-one comparison, and that's inherently flawed, right? Because when we say that matchmaking happens on the team versus team balance, but you only ever see the comparison between you and the other guy that killed you, it makes it always feel like something is off because you don't understand the full picture. What we want to make sure is we want to give you the full picture after the game. Again, we talk about that in a second, for you to then make up your mind whether this was fair, whether this was unfair, and also give you the chance to still like report players, look at the profiles if they're not hidden, all of the stuff as you normally know from the dev screen, just not during the game. You can focus on the game, on the gameplay experience, and afterwards you can clear things up and you can do all the steps that you think it's important. It hopefully also takes away some of the tension, because what is also a problem actually in practice for us with customer support is that we get like a lot of reports, and these reports are often not credible because they're kept out of spite, out of anger. That guy killed me, has to be cheating, that type of stuff. So it actually makes it very hard for customer support to identify what is an actual report, what is actually problematic. How can we actually follow up on this? So what we also hope with the same process is to make sure that by giving you the chance to do the reporting after the round is over and giving you more information and also maybe a minute to calm down, it makes it more considerate for you to see whether you want to press the button or not. And that means also an increase in quality for the reports, and therefore also makes it easier for us to react on the reports in a timely manner. So that's just a nice side effect of going down that road.
You actually have more options to report than before, because you could only report the player that killed you, but now you will be able to see the whole match basically, for players that are not hidden. So
let's have a look at that screen then.
I think first let's just talk about what the whole screen exactly has. So yeah, as Dennis mentioned, this whole screen will include the team details, which is the name of the whole screen, and this will show the MMR breakdown for your whole game. So you will be able to see your own team as well as the enemy teams and their star ratings and how you were matched against them basically.
Yeah, let's have a look at the screen.
Exactly. Okay, so as you can see, after you are out of the game and you get your accolade cards, there will be the team details tab that you just have to click on the bottom instead of continue, and then it will take you to this screen here.
So this is how the new screen looks like. So what you can see here on the left side is your own team and your own team composition. So you can kind of see your own score. It's basically a repetition of what information you've already seen on the lobby. And then on the right-hand side, you will see a list of all of the teams that have been with you in this game. So in this particular game, it's just been one team with 2 players, but it's just for the testing purposes here. And this list basically allows you to see, okay, everybody who was with me in the game will be appearing in that list in the constellation of their team. So I will understand that, for example, if I've interacted with one particular team, I will understand, oh, this was a duo, this was a trio. I understand how the skill of the individuals in the team was. I can see how the system then calculates the match MMR based off it and therefore sees it. Like in this example here, this has been a game recorded from a game without skill-based matchmaking on. That's why you still see a very strong difference between like your team and the other team, because the system has allowed different ranges to come into the same game. So your own team is being considered 3.5, with one player being like a super awesome player and the other one like more average, but it still is going to be a strong team. The other team, however, seems to be pretty new. And they basically then probably means that the 3-star player was probably on the lower end of 3 stars, and the other one was in training mode. That's why it overall reduces the amount like to that very very small number. It can happen if you have skill-based matchmaking off, but obviously in a fair game you would probably see a like much more evened out list here. And that's the neat part of this menu, is you can now understand how the composition of the teams was during each of the matches. Every time you come over the game, you can press the button. Also, obviously, you can go there still from the last match menu and look at it after the summary screen has been clicked away, to see what exactly was the composition of this last match, who did I encounter, and maybe I can draw conclusions from this, whether this was a problem or not. If I click on the names of the guys, I can then open up the profiles, look at it. I can do the reporting just as usual. Obviously, if someone has hidden the profiles, you wouldn't see the details of the profiles there as is normal. Now, there's something more to it here, and that is not really clear from this example. On the right-hand side, you see these red icons. And this is basically showing you how you have interacted with this particular person. So very often you will not see any of these red icons at all. But if you do, it means one of 4 things. And we can quickly maybe show the other screen there.
Exactly. So we are sorry for the quality of the image, because this has been cropped from the screenshot itself. So that's why it's lower quality. But as Dennis said, we have 4 icons. So when you see the red skull with the bullet through it, that means you killed the hunter. So in the end summary screen, you will be able to see who you actually killed. And just like that, you will be able to see who actually killed you the same way. Just with
It's basically the information that we present to you during the game, right? Either because the name pops up with a banner, or because someone has used voice next to you, or because they have killed you and therefore they show up on the dev screen, etc. So basically, after the game, you will only see the names in the list for those players that have at least had one of those icons show up next to them. Otherwise, they will be listed as an anonymous player, like they're basically unknown. You can click on the details, you can still report them, but you do not get the name from them, because they might have died on the other end of the map. You never had an interaction, but it's still important for you to show you who was with you in the game, because that way you can then finally see whether this was maybe you only had interaction with one guy from a team, but you can still see what team he was in, and whether, even though he was the strongest guy, and you think, okay, well, why is such a strong person fighting me? Well, he was maybe babysitting these other 2 weaker persons. And you can finally look at that in this full screen. So this is a very, very important list, but it's only available to you after the match is over. So it doesn't change anything during gameplay when it comes to keeping up the mystery and the unknown.
Exactly. And then the 2 other icons that we have are new. One is that this hunter used text or voice chat next to you or close proximity to you. That refers to the in-game voice chat, obviously. So if they wrote something or talk that you could hear or see, this icon will show up. And then the last one is that this hunter carried the bounty during the game at one point. So it doesn't mean that he extracted it with it, but it means that he had it during the game.
His name popped up during a banner, basically, at one point, right? Like, or that person was somehow in possession of the bounty. So those interaction points are the key. So if you go back one more to the overview, just to show it in context. So you can see like these icons on the right side. Obviously, multiple icons can appear for the people, and it just gives you a bit of a context of why they showed up. What's also important is that on top, next to the match MMR of each of the groups, you have this little icon with the arrows. So basically, it shows you whether there's a weak, a normal, or a strong modifier being in effect there. And if you hover over that, it will basically tell you basically what type of modifier it is. Obviously, you kind of guess if there's only one person in the team, very likely he got the solo bonus, but you have the full information there to go over. Also, I think very important to tell you guys, obviously, is that if you press the question mark icon on the top right of the HUD, you can enable the helper overlay, and that just gives you a bit more explanation about all of that. So make sure you check that out as well. Just press the little question mark on this particular screen, and it will try to give you some information about what the screen is about, and will explain things as much as is possible.
Exactly, and some people said that the icons are a bit too similar, but if you hover over them, it will actually also tell you in text what the icon means, so you will always know if it's like you killed someone or you got killed. You will never confuse it that way.
It's also important because it kind of tells you then, like, okay, well, I want to basically report the guy that killed me. Like, I have a chance to actually understand who the person was, and can basically deduct the information from there. Obviously, I also see the name then, etc. So yeah, this is this new screen, and we think this is a much more easier and elegant way to solving this whole matchmaking readability issue that we've had since the last update, where these changes that we've made internally weren't quite clearly communicated, right? Like, so it was very hard for players, for you guys to understand what is actually happening there. So by doing this push for transparency now, what we hope is that people will understand much easier after the round how the constellation of a particular round was, understand whether it was fair or not. They can still do reporting, they can still do all of the necessary steps they could do before, even more so, because you can now report basically everybody on that list. If you want it, obviously, please don't. But what we hope is that just by not having it directly on the dev screen, it will cut down immensely on the amount of reports, because many of them are not because something went wrong, but because someone just killed you, if you're all honest.
Exactly. But yeah, please don't report everyone, because I already feel very bad for our customer support team to get like hundreds of reports. So just please keep in mind, report the players that you think actually like cheated, said something bad, or the usual. And let's recap a bit what we have about matchmaking and the matchmaking fairness that we have in place.
Yeah, so the fairness part is like the most important aspect behind this, right? Because you want to communicate to you guys whether a game was considered fair or not. And this is just like one of the most important aspects around this, is that you understand that whether a game was actually giving you like a fair match, or whether something was off, and you can actually put the finger on it, right? Because right now it's all about feeling, it's all about, this could be weird, because it naturally comes by having a game that deprives the player of information intentionally to build up tension. That lack of information can also sometimes result in these very frustrating moments, because you just don't really know, was it right, was it wrong? That fills you with this just like unsatisfied feeling. And just like by giving you that information after the round, giving you more of that information, hopefully is a chance for us to kind of like win you over in terms of, yeah, this was actually fine, this worked out okay. I didn't understand it maybe during that time during the match, but seeing it now here in the list, it actually feels like this was fair. Sure, we got murdered by the one strong player of the team, but look, the other dudes were pretty weak, and that's why overall it was fine to fight that particular team. But keep in mind that if you're up to the next one, keep in mind that also, like in general, it is always dependent a little bit on the region you play on. So I mentioned this a couple of minutes ago. If you're playing on a smaller region with fewer players, the matchmaking system doesn't have as many players to like move around and assign to games. So there's a consequence. Either you accept that there would be basically empty games, but they would be the fairest games ever, or you widen basically the range of players you allow into the same match, and that's where the brackets come in, to make sure that we still have sufficiently populated games as much as the region can support, and that means that smaller regions have fewer brackets and larger regions have more brackets. So obviously matchmaking quality kind of depends a little bit on the region you're playing on the time of day you're playing on that region, and the overpopulation.
Exactly. And we have one more last very important point to mention here, is that on the test servers there is no matchmaking on, so you will still see the icons and everything, but it won't be balanced. So the skill-based matchmaking will not be on. This is super important because obviously for the test servers are very different than the live environment, and the amount of player base is way smaller, so we decided to keep that off. But
it's
you will
basically
be able
one
to...
bracket.
Exactly. It's one bracket for everyone, but you will be able to see still all the icons and everything else, like the post-match screen, as well as the new reporting and all that. So this is all there, but the matchmaking is not on. Again, please keep that in mind when you are trying it out very soon.
Yes, so reserve judgment a little bit until you see it in live environment, when there's a huge population, obviously a much bigger population on a test server. It will still show you all of the details. The system will be technically there. It might just mean that when you go to that new screen, you will basically see teams that are very strong, teams that are very weak, just because the way they get paired into the game is only being channeled through one bracket. There were also a couple of questions, maybe we can quickly address them right now. There was one about hiding stats. So at the moment, we have decided to not allow any sorts of hiding of that stuff, of that, because we want to go for maximum transparency. This might change moving forward, so we're waiting for feedback on that one. It's just important that right now, people are exposed to these numbers. They can get a feeling for these numbers, and that's just going to be very important for us initially. as we then maybe later on allow linking, like depending on if you have hidden stats or not, like have different filters in there, that's to be decided. But for the moment, we want this to be very transparent, very open, in order for us to also see where the system works and you guys to have a chance to really understand the moving parts of the system.
Exactly, and I think that's about matchmaking. So guys, if you still have any questions, please make sure to ask it in chat, and our lovely moderators will collect the questions, and we will have a Q&A session at the very end where we will try to answer as much as we can. But for now, let's move on to Gunplay, where we also have a bunch of new changes. So
yes.
So first of all, we have some changes made to the medium and long ammo. Which means we increase the ranges.
Yeah, so this is basically a change in preparation for the new map, but also because there have been some situations in the past where, especially like some long-range shots, like I don't know, like for example on the top of the castle in Lawson for Karmic, where sometimes it felt like this was like I had him in my sights, I hear the headshot sound, but it was out of the range and it just feels frustrating. So in general, this is like a change that promotes sniping gameplay a little bit more. So we've kind of broken with some of the rules that we've had hard-coded so far. So as a basically reminder, what we have been doing in the past was we've had a hard cap of 250 meters for headshots. So that means a shot could travel up to 300 meters, then the bullet would kind of like delete itself. Now that is a further range, so now goes to 500 meters in general. So you can actually hit people further out. But systemically, that also means that these 250 meter hard limit for the headshot ranges have also been increased a little bit. So this is affecting the long ammo and the medium ammo. So if you go to the medium example there, basically it goes just like a few hundred meters below that. And that means in general, bullets travel further. That doesn't mean they're so much more lethal. Like it just means that a headshot at beyond 250 meters can still kill. If you manage to hit it with a headshot, I mean, everybody who's playing with the snipers know that 250 meter headshot is not something that happens every day. So we don't think that's too much of an issue. But specifically in preparation of the new map, which has with the added verticality, quite a different way of giving you longer sightlines to specific areas. We want to take it into account. So consider this primarily not a balancing thing, because long ammo would have needed it. It's primarily just like to avoid frustrating situations and specifically give the snipers a bit less frustrating experience for those one-hit headshots at a larger distance. So there I think we have like 2 examples you could show up quickly.
Exactly.
Just show them both maybe. Okay, it's the videos first.
Yeah.
So here you can see like a very classical view. Normally you would have basically just not been able to kill the guy. Now you can. Again, like how often does such a shot happen in a game? I mean, you tell me, but I mean, for me, it happens like maybe 1 in 15 games, 20 games or so that I have an opportunity to do such a long shot. But if such an opportunity presents itself, it's a bit more rewarding and just it feels a bit nicer.
312 meters, nice shot. Exactly, and as Dennis mentioned, we actually have some examples as well written down, so let's take a look at those. So let's say, for example, for the sparks, the effective range was 250 meters, which was the maximum, but now it's 347.
Yeah, keep in mind, effective range here is referring to the stat, and that is basically the range you can do a headshot. So effective range, if you look it up for each of the weapons, you will see these adjusted numbers there. And on the Sparks example, it will now, instead of 250, read 347 meters there. So that gives you like almost 150 meters additional range to do like a headshot at distance. So could be very nice, but I guess I don't think it would happen that frequently. But if it happens, I think it's going to be something where I would actually really like to reward the shooter by even daring such a shot. So I think that's cool.
And yeah, another example for a medium ammo, the Retaliation. So from 167 meter, the effective range increased to 184. And again, as Dennis mentioned, is the stat that you see in the menu for headshot ranges.
So again, please just look at it on the test server then for each of the weapons, go through the menu, see how they change. But obviously, like newer weapons, like we've introduced the Centennial Sniper recently, like obviously they benefit from this quite nicely because of the huge zoom of the sniper scope, and now a slightly increased effective range for that weapon. Even though it's a medium bullet weapon, I think people would appreciate that.
Exactly. And then we have other gunplay changes. and a lot of it is for the custom ammo, which we changed. To start it off, now the full metal jacket ammunition keeps damage over longer distance. So that means its effective range that we just talked about increases.
Yeah, think of it like that. Each of the weapons, when they fire, have a certain plateau in the beginning. This is like a certain distance up to which the damage does not drop at all. So I think for a long bullet projectile, I think it's around 40-ish or so meters where there's almost no significant drop in damage. And then from that point on, normal evolution of damage applies, which basically means that the further the bullet travels, the more it drips down, and depending on the projectile type, that is stronger or flatter as a curve. With full metal jacket, basically what we're doing, we're extending this initial plateau, like the first few meters, before the drop down kicks in. And that means technically that each full metal jacket gets a slight increase in effective range. So that means you can do headshots further out. Again, it might just be 20 meters on some gun, might be 40 meters on another gun, depends on the gun. Again, please just look at the effective range stats for the weapons. But keep in mind that if full metal jacket still has slower projectile speed than normal bullets, so actually hitting someone at that distance is much more of a challenge because your projectile just travels at a much slower range. And you also have obviously the special ammunition limit there because as custom ammo can only be supplied from the special ammo boxes.
Yeah, then it's meant slower speed, not range, but yeah.
Yes, slower speed,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's for the FMJ, and we have other changes for the Dragon Breath, which now causes more damage up close.
Yeah. So this is basically just looking at telemetry, looking at data. Full metal jacket is great for effect, but it's not greatly effective, let's put it like that. By just giving a bit of a boost up close, it's not much, just a little bit, like the burning is a bit more severe and the damage is a bit more, it actually feels a bit more competitive. It still obviously can't one-hit kill you, so it's not like the flechette change we've done in the last update, where with a headshot or most pellets hitting the head, you could actually one-hit kill a person with a flechette. This is not the case with Dragon Breath, but it's just much more of a punchy thing now, close range, so give it a try, see how it feels. It might be a bit more devastating than before.
Cool, and we also have a change made to the Dum-Dum ammunition, and it no longer has reduced damage over the regular ammo type, so when you're not using special ammo.
Yeah, so all the normal modifiers apply, which means obviously you do bleeding on hits and there's no wall penetration. But looking again at the usage values of how certain ammunition types are being used, both Dum-Dum and also the next one, the incendiary ammunition, have the same change of no longer having lower base damage. So they're just as effective as the regular ammunition, but obviously they drop off at the same interval or as further as the bullet travels. But the main drawback that we see is just that you can't shoot through walls with them, and that alone together with the ammunition limit is I think enough of a handicap, so that we wanted to just make them a bit more effective. So expect to see a little bit more Dum-Dum, a little more incendiary around, just because you have the same chance to kill people as long as they're not behind cover.
Yeah, and as Dennis mentioned, all the other drawbacks still apply. So this is the only thing that changes about these two, not anything else. Because I saw some people asking in chat.
Yeah. Like I think they had, I can't remember it correctly. I think it was around 20-ish% lower base damage. This is what they have currently on live. So these bullets are each a little bit weaker, like Dum-Dum and Incendiary, and that's a handicap that, like a downside, we removed. So they had the same base damage, but still obviously no wall penetration, and you need special ammo boxes.
Exactly, and we also have other gunplay changes, starting with the Rival and Nitro.
Yeah, so this is just a totally cosmetic change. Again, this is we had this the last time. We talked a little bit about the animations on the aftermath, right? In terms of how we try to make it feel believable and credible. This is also about the same thing as we did with the sparks, where we kind of removed the hammer pull where it wasn't needed. So this is it's very similar, just mainly cosmetic change, where it's just the way how the reload happens. Where before you open it, break action, and the shells kind of like they soar out as if there was an ejector. And that is true for the Romero, for example, but actually isn't true for these old double shotguns, where you kind of have to peel out the rounds one by one. So it's just a cosmetic change, and we can quickly have a look at how it looks right now and how it will look on test server.
So this is the old for the Rival. This is how it is right now on live.
So it kind of flows out and never really conveyed the weight of these huge like nitro shells, for example. So it's just really a cosmetic change.
And here's the new animation.
So it kind of peels them out a little bit more as they kind of get stuck there with all the fouling from the black powder. And the same has been done to the shotgun and the nitro.
Yeah, we can look at the nitro as well. So this is the old again.
They kind of shared the same animation almost, so it was easy just to do both in one go, basically. So this is how it looked before that with the one, and then the new one will be, again, peeling out the rounds one by one quickly. The timings have not changed, and if so, they have changed maybe by a frame or two, so not something that you would notice. They're pretty much the same. This is really purely a cosmetic change.
Exactly, so that was it for the animation changes for the rival and the nitro, but we also have some recall animation changes to the Nagant officer.
Yes, so this is again mostly an animation change. So not the screen kick, the actual recoil, but actually what the weapon does on screen. It always felt a bit weird. There was like some weird motion in it, and it's just a bit of a cleanup on that. It doesn't change anything with the rate of fire, but it means maybe that you can actually see a bit better through the sides as the weapon doesn't do the weird twist as it tries to realign itself. Just have a look at the old one. So you can see like this bit of a weird right twist type of thing in there. It kind of like the nose kind of kicks away in a weird way.
And then we can look at the new one.
So it's much more directed, keeps the barrel pointed, etc. So fits just a bit nice. It's just minor visual polish, nothing to be too proud of, and nothing to be too important. But I think it's a nice little addition, and definitely helps clean up a little bit.
Exactly, and we also have other changes made to the Spectre shotgun. So you may remember from our last stream, I believe, where we changed the Mosin and Lebel cycle logic for reloading.
Yes.
And so, now this happens to the shotgun as well.
It's the same thing basically, that if you reload before racking the slide, like before working the pump action, you press the reload button before that, it will basically be able to replace the round quickly, and basically gives you a chance to not lose a round with like if you don't have bullet grabber, for example. It's only for this particular situation. So the moment you've racked the slide, obviously, just like with the bolt actions on the Lebel and the Mosin, that opportunity is lost, but it gives you a chance to do the same thing there.
We have 2 videos for this as well.
So this is basically by default. If you just don't let it happen. And then basically if you press the reload right after firing, if you show the next video. So basically you don't lose a round because nothing has been cycled back into the chamber. The one that's being ejected is basically the empty shell, and therefore you can much easier reload. So again, a minor change. It's just something for consistency, as we did with the Lebel and the Mosin. Now it's possible to get that weapon updated as well. And actually, like John just mentioned there, yes, I personally are really liking this one because I really do play the Spectre Compact quite a lot. So yeah, good for me.
I'm not really a shotgun guy myself, to be honest. So not gonna happen. But we also have another change made to the Bornheim match. But this is just a slight damage increase because of the longer barrel.
Yeah, so this is something that we noticed as well in the statistics. Like, people are using the Bornheim. No one is using the Bornheim match. It's very, very rare. And we just wanted to give it a slight boost. So I mean, it does have a slightly longer barrel than the normal one. So you can argue that like there's more pressure being built up as the bullet can travel through. So we just gave it a slightly increase. It means that where the Bornheim can never 2-tap you, this one can at a very short range actually do that. But again, it's a medium slot, and so it's good if it gets used a little bit more.
Exactly. And okay, we arrived to a huge topic, I think, that a lot of people were waiting for, which is all about the Dolch balancing. Oh boy, here we go.
See, have you ever seen that roller coaster of emotions where basically they're just like, oh my god, they're giving us yet another Dolch. Oh.
Yeah, huge
Alright.
Dolch buffs incoming. Yeah, no. So,
Alright.
let's
Yeah,
look at the data.
Let's exactly. So there will be balance changes to the Dolch. We'll talk about them in a second. Let's first reiterate a little bit on data, on context. I think it's something which is important just for everybody to understand, because obviously, like the 2% we've been presenting in the past has lent itself quite to some memeing, I would say. So it's important for you guys to get the context a little bit more of what it means in terms of distribution, what it means for specific ELO ratings, etc. And then we talk about the changes that we're doing.
Yeah, so as Danish mentioned, Danish, what did I just say? Danish is like the Dolch version of Danish. Yeah, so Danish just mentioned the 2%, and as you can see, it is actually 2% of all the loadouts entering a game. So the Dolch is actually 2%.
So this is something I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this now. We just can step by step add the comments in. So 2% across all loadouts means basically if a loadout means if a player enters a game with a weapon, that's the percentage of how often that happens, right? So then that means all the noob players that just started playing, who don't even have the rank to unlock it yet, then up to basically all the veterans that are like rank 100, have everything unlocked and have the money to afford it, etc. So obviously 2% is a broad stroke. It's painting with a very broad stroke, because depending on where you are in the matchmaking system, on how skilled you are, how much you have progressed, obviously these 2% will become more or less for you, right? Even to the point that on some on some higher ends, it might be much more frequent in practice. So the data that we've looked at and analyzed this a little bit, and again, this might be a bit of a longer section, but I think it makes sense to just try to explain this a bit more in detail, is that the Dolch itself might be not used a lot. Like when we say 2% for the Dolch, the uppercut, for example, is 6 or 7%. The Pax is 5%. I think the Sparks is 6 or 7%. So all of these are very low numbers in general, but you have to take into account that you can have both a main weapon and a sidearm. You have to take into account that weapons get unlocked over with rank. So it's a lot of variables and moving parts in this whole thing. However, what we have specifically seen is that the Dolch had specific areas where it was a bit too much, and that's what we're going to talk about right now.
Exactly. So as it appears, the largest amount of the Dolches are in higher MMR games, which means they appear more frequently when players are more highly skilled than the average.
Yeah, so this can basically result in if you have the higher ELO ratings, and again, we're talking about a very small part of the community that will experience it, but still some people will experience it, and those people are usually also very vocal because they are veterans. Is that over there, it can mean that it actually goes up to a higher percentage that can result in 1 or 2 Dolches per match on average, right? So you have 12 players, every player can bring a loadout, so even a small percentage can kind of grow in perception, and that is just something which is really, really important to understand here. Is that obviously on a higher ELO, this is much more obviously as an issue, or issue in quotes, the chance for it appearing is much higher than it is on, let's say, for example, the average game or the lower game. So it's just something to establish a couple of facts here before we deep dive a little bit further. It's just important to understand. Now, if you have the next one there, what was it?
Yeah, so basically the Dolch gets looted more often from the games because everyone knows that it's the Dolch, and it's actually like a big meme, so obviously everyone loots it, which makes one weapon appear in multiple games frequently.
Yeah, so it's likely that if someone brought a Dolch and you killed them, I mean, probably from your own games, there's a good chance you're gonna pick it up, or one of you guys picks it up and brings it along, right? So it means the same Dolch pistol might appear in multiple fights during the same game, even though it was just 1 or 2 Dolches per match. Its presence is just significantly higher how it's being perceived, and that makes it also a problem because it means there's more fights with Dolch involved in general, right? Even maybe the ammunition might not be full anymore, but it's still there and it's still a powerful weapon. But also what we've noticed, and that's something which was kind of interesting as well, is on the next slide with the kill ranges or kill rates.
Yeah. So as Dennis mentioned, we are looking at the data for the kill rates, and the Dolch has a slightly higher kill rate than other pistols in Hunt.
So that basically, again, comes down to where you look on the ELO rating. So that's actually quite interesting. So the Dolch in general, or all of the weapons in general, have a pretty flat kill ratio. That means basically for every weapon you bring into game, how many kills can be expected from that weapon. Most of the weapons in the game are below 1, which means that most of the weapons don't make a kill, right? Because people die, or they never have a chance to even draw the in this case the Dolch as a sidearm because they've been primarily playing with the main weapon, or they got shot before, etc. Again, lots of different variables that play into this. Now, the Dolch still has a slightly higher rate than the other weapons, and that means obviously it is a more flexible weapon. It's a weapon that people can compensate a little bit more. And what we have observed is that the average matchmaking groups, they were benefiting the most from this. So it's not just that all the veterans kill everybody with a Dolch. It's actually the just slightly above average player that actually can use this weapon to a certain extent to compensate, maybe for not having so good aim, maybe for not having like the best tactics or whatever. Like this weapon can be used, I guess, to a certain extent to help them offset their own shortcomings a little bit. But the further you go on the higher ELO ratings, actually what we see there is that other weapons come much more to the foreground. So, for example, what we have observed is that from I think it is a matchmaking rating of roughly 2,900. So, Ben, I think you could maybe just open up the graphic there one more time. So as you can see here, the range we've shown earlier, you see the majority of the players are in the center area, but if you take a look at the right, around where 2,900 would be, that's a very, very small subset of players that's left there, right? Like compared to all of the community there is, it's just a very small set. This is where most of the streamers are. This is where most of the veterans are. This is like where the hardcore people who have like godlike aim, like the creme de la creme, the good people, they are playing in this area. And what we see happening there is that the Dolch doesn't really increase with the same rates in usage and also in kill efficiency, because at this point all of the weapons go spiking up because players actually hit their shots. So for them it doesn't really in practice matter whether they bring an uppercut, whether they bring a PAX, they still hit their shots. So the Dolch doesn't really work so much as a force multiplier for these people because they kill anyways. But for the people before that, so the just above average players, there we can see the strongest impact of what the Dolch is doing to their games and giving maybe a competitive chance. But also, obviously, you can understand why specifically the veteran players are upset about the Dolch, because for them, that's the perception of I'm just getting spammed to death, right? These guys are idiots. They haven't played well, but now I get killed by a Dolch. Yes, because of exactly what we noticed there is like the Dolch helps these guys to a certain extent, and maybe unfairly. That's why we do the balancing. In order to maybe be on top of their game. But also interesting is that then in terms of usage, the further you go to the right, to like the best of the best of the best players, at one point the Dolch usage actually drops down. So all of the other weapons, they kind of go up. Specifically, the uppercut goes up to like insane amounts of usage levels. But I think it's like at one point, it's like more than 50% of all loadouts have an uppercut in them. Well, I think it's like 15, 20%. Again, don't want to throw too much numbers around. Have the Dolch, but at one point, actually, it flips around, and then you see the uppercut continue to climb, but you see the Dolch to reduce to like 5% again. That is probably, again, also something which is interesting to observe in the community. That's where probably the Dolch haters sit. Like the people who said, like, I despise the Dolch. I will never, ever put myself on that level and will use the Dolch myself. I will use the other weapons because they have the skill, because they're actually that good to pull it off. And it's just interesting to see how maybe parts of the community can even be mapped against specific parts of this whole list. And that's actually pretty interesting. But numbers aside, in general, what we've observed is that the Dolch had a bit too much effectiveness in the center area, and that's what we want to maybe then go now to the actual changes we're doing to see how we can maybe bring the Dolch down to a more reasonable level.
Exactly. So let's look at the actual balancing changes that we did. And when I said we buffed the Dolch, I was just joking, obviously. So let's look what actually happened to the weapon. First of all, we changed the animation slightly, so now it has a slower reload speed animation-wise.
Yeah. So we're talking about like 3 different changes here. None of these changes on their own is going to be a silver bullet, haha. Like it's going to be the combination of all 3, which tries to like bring the Dolch back into a more balanced round for those above average games primarily, but in general making it more of a choice that actually works. So the first one is the animation changes. In general, most people, I would argue rightfully that, yeah, but what does it matter to change the reload? Because I still have 10 rounds I can fire before it even becomes an issue. That is very true. But still, in the grand economy of things, it still is one factor that we have to take into account. So let's have a look at how the Dolch reload looked before and what we're changing.
Exactly. So first, let's take a look at how it reloaded right now on live with the clip. So this is how it is on live.
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty fast way of reloading with a clip, and we've done a bit of a change to that, but this isn't the most significant change. So let me just have a quick look at the new one there.
And here is the new reload with the clip.
So just like it takes like a second longer for the full reload. And again, this is not what we used for balancing. Like this is just for consistency. What we actually tried to balance was the individual round top up, and you get to that in a second. So you can see like he's struggling much more, and it buys us like another second or two in order to just like drag the whole thing out a little bit more and make it a bit more costly. Plus the hand is kind of like stuck on the middle of the screen, so it's like it's an encumbrance. But the more important one is the individual bullet. So this is what it is right now. Again, so you can see like very quick reload, and this is one of the bigger issues with a weapon. You can top it up very quickly, right? You're like just like quick break, and you can put a few more rounds in, and you're back in the fight. And with a new one, we've doubled that, so it goes from 1 second to 2 seconds per tick per individual bullet put in, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, so this is the new one, and the previous one was the old. As you can see, it's much slower.
So just it's we've kind of borrowed a little bit from our experience with the uppercut in the past, where we've also slowed down the reload of the uppercuts. Like I think it was 1.5 years ago, almost, or 2 years ago, almost. It's been a long time. And that also helped with the uppercuts dominance back then, because it introduced a bit of a shadow cost that at least between fights, it's not as easy to top up. So there's additional pressure on you, and that might make a difference to you as you fight. So again, animation change is one part. There's a total of 3 things. None of them on their own will be the big thing that changes all, but in combination, we feel that these changes will help bring the Dolch to a more reasonable level. But keep one thing in mind, the Dolch is still a semi-automatic weapon. It has 10 rounds capacity. It fires a fast flying projectile. It is a strong weapon, and there's nothing we can change unless we want to break basically the place of reality in this case. And we've tried to basically make bullet velocities match to the real life velocities as much as possible. And we wouldn't want to change the weapon to have just like 6 rounds just because the model actually clearly shows it's 10 rounds. So what we want to work with in balancing is balance within the physical constraints that we can actually change. And that would primarily be like the realm of damage, handling, as well as control.
And as Danish already touched on it, we also have a slight damage reduction for the Dolch.
Yes,
I don't know if you want to go in more detail in that.
Yeah, I mean, for this we don't have a video because it's something which is best felt. So the pure damage, and that is before you apply any like of body modifications, like hitting the chest or hitting the head or hitting a leg on a player, dropped by 10 points, right? So at the moment on live, the Dolch has a damage of 85 pure damage, and now that is dropped down to 75. And then if you apply that with the body damages on top, it still means basically, obviously, it's going to be around like 10 damage below what it was before, 10, 11, 12, depends really where you hit, etc. But that makes a big difference in terms of the effective range, because obviously you can't one hit kill, like headshot someone as far out, and as the weapon, like the projectile travels further, obviously it loses even more damage. So still, if you want to put it in perspective, like the Corver conversion has 85, so it's close to what the Dolch had. The Nagant has, I think, 70-ish. The Bornheim has 67-ish or 65-ish. I don't have the exact numbers top of my head right now. But by just dropping it by 10 points, we make sure it is obviously still perceived better as a Bornheim, but it is significantly lowered. And obviously, you have to take this with a pinch of salt here, because a grain of salt, because just changing the damage a little bit is, again, not a silver bullet, right? You can still two-tap someone. It just have to be a little bit closer, right? You can two-tap someone with a call for conversion. You can two-tap someone with a Nagant revolver. So that doesn't go away. Otherwise, you would need to make this like a 22 caliber, like a super weak pistol, which we're not going to intend to do because it was a strong sidearm. But finding the right balance and notching it a little bit down, together with the animation changes and together with the third point, which we're going to talk about in a second, is how we want to push the weapon into this more balanced space.
Yeah, so let's look at the third point, which is sway changes when spamming any semi-automatic weapon. So in ADS, so it's not just for the Dolch, but all other semi-automatic weapons as well.
Yeah, so this is, we wanted to make sure that there's a certain consistency in that particular change. Obviously, this whole system, this whole change, this third point is targeted primarily at the Dolch because that is the problem. But for consistency reasons, every weapon which is fast shooting, like even the Officer or even the Auto 5 on the Bornheim, will be affected by this particular new system in one way or another. Not as strongly as the Dolch, but still. What it means is that if you go to ADS, you will basically now either have to fire more slowly, so you have to control your own fire. You have to have some trigger discipline. Looking at you, Psycho Ghost. And we'll have to basically make sure that you kind of place these shots step by step by step. But if you spam it, this additional penalty starts kicking in, which induces even more sway and makes it even harder for you to kind of like not be able to follow up these additional shots precisely, and likely will make you miss. So let's have a look at the videos, because so much talking. Shout out to
Yeah, we have a bunch
Love you,
of
man.
videos. So here's our first video. The recoil is deactivated for these demonstrations. Keep that in mind. But you can see there's a sway.
Yeah, so again, super important. It's written on the screen, I know, but there is no recoil in this example because we want you to see how right now on live the sway pattern behaves on there, right? This is just the natural sway pattern of you breathing basically, and we've disabled the recoil on this particular video here just for demonstration. So this is what is currently on live. Now we're going to show you how this looks with the new system.
No,
also still.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Also still with the recoil deactivated, just so you can notice how the sway is increasing. So in this case, it's a slow rate of fire, right? And you can see like it kind of starts become wobbly, like kick around a little bit more left and right, and just makes the whole thing less predictable to stay on target. So again, this is without the recoil. So now let's have a look at how this is when you spam it. As you can see here, like it kicks much stronger, like it escalates much more and makes it much harder to land those shots. Now, on the last video, we see how this new system works with the recoil being re-enabled. So basically how it will be on the test server.
The difference is quite big.
So not only do you have to compensate for the recoil as normal, right? You also have to ensure that like the sway is being compensated by your aim. So like being able to keep the sights on the target at like sort of medium distance already is going to be pretty hard. So fire discipline, trigger discipline, that's something which will matter a lot more with this gun in order to be effective and retain its effectiveness. And that combined with a slower reload and that combined with the reduced damage, we think is a nice package to bring some balance to the weapon.
Exactly,
we also had, I think, like 2 examples of, I think we used the Officer for this one.
Exactly.
Just to show you the same thing here. So again, this is with this disabled recoil, just to show you how this new sway affects the Officer. As you can see, it's not as drastic as on the Dolch. It makes sense. It's like a weaker projectile, so it doesn't kick as much. And then on the second video, this is how it feels with the recoil enabled and the new system together. So again, you can still spam, and short range you can fire. Keep in mind this is for ADS, so if you shoot from the shoulder, like the system is not there, but then you have more spread anyways. So overall, what we hope from this is that if you want a rapid fire, you better do this from close up, because there's going to be much harder time now for you to actually hit your shots at longer distances.
Exactly, and for now that's about the Dolch balancing and also semi-automatic, I guess. So I obviously, as always, will monitor all the feedback from the test servers and later on live servers, and if we need to apply any further changes, we will keep that in mind. But please write your feedback, how you feel about these changes after you tried it out.
And that's a good thing is well, the map is not yet there, obviously, so you can focus on actually balancing stuff a little bit more in the first few days now until the map comes on 1.6 test server to give us some more feedback on that, because I can promise you the moment you will have a chance to play the new map, you will not have any eyes for any balance. You will just explore the map all the time, which is great, and this will come very, very soon. But for me personally, it's going to be awesome to actually get some balancing feedback from you guys first.
Exactly. And then we also have some explosive ammo changes.
Yes, so this is something that will not be on the test server right now, but it's something we're still working on. Again, looking at telemetry, looking at EDO rankings, and looking at where exactly we see explosive ammo to appear more in matches. And again, the console environment consists of a very strong veteran community. Lots of players who've been there playing a long time. So obviously within those veterans, you'll see a much stronger effect than, for example, on the lower ranks. What we can do, however, right now in the stream is we can already talk about what we want to do in order to give you guys a bit of a chance. It shouldn't have too much of an impact for the PC crowd, because they're honestly, explosive ammo on our starter isn't really anything which is problematic. But we acknowledge the fact that on console it's much more of a thing. So we want to do some general changes to it that I don't think will hurt the PC version, but will definitely benefit the console version.
So as that is mentioned, it won't be on test servers just yet, but it will come later on. And explosive ammo now will have more direct and less indirect damage.
Ammunition. Ammunition.
Oh, well, maybe
I
that's how I call it.
I just saw the chat going uwu right away, which is perfect.
Yeah, it's just my accent in text format. I'm sorry.
Okay, so what we're trying to do is we will shift the total damage package a little bit away from the indirect damage, so the splash damage, more again towards the direct hit. So the overall total damage should remain the same of a hit. However, with these changes, if you hit next to someone, you will obviously still wound them, you will damage them, but it's less likely to actually cause kills that way. You would need to a lot more hits in order to do that. And instead, obviously, there will be much more of an emphasis on if you hit them directly, you will do the majority of the damage. So again, we see like the first comments with their huge experience coming in about like, so explosive ammo is now useless. No, it's not. It's just a different balancing approach. For example, what works very well and what personally I use explosive ammo quite a lot for is to create chaos, to shoot into a room and know that lanterns will explode, start burning, that barrels and will go up, etc. It's a indirect pressure mechanic that's very, very powerful. It's not so much about shooting that guy that's sitting around the corner. It's more about creating these like secondary damage, secondary explosions, secondary effects to kind of force people out. That's at least what I use explosive ammo quite a lot for, and that will still remain valid, just the same as before. But the kill potential of splash damage will be reduced that way. And we will also, in addition to that, do some more tuning to the bulwark trait, so it does have a stronger absorption of explosive damage. Again, the exact numbers we'll still have to carry out a little bit as we do our testing, but both the change on the ammunition and the change on the trait should kind of like help move this a little bit more into a realm where also like the console people will be feeling it is more balanced for them.
Yeah, and just shout out to the console players. We do hear you. We all see your comments. We don't ignore you. So there you go. This is a step to that direction. So I hope you guys will try it out as well on PC when it's on, or test later. But I'm sure the console players will like this change. And when Dennis, you said that I see the chat about explosive ammo being bad now. No, only thing I see is uwu.
like for example, there's this one question by Donkey Campaign there about like, so the Martini Henry explosive one hits you now because it has 149 damage. No, obviously not. So we still have that as a limit for this particular one, but that was still one of the strongest, and instead there we will see a reduction of the splash damage, similar to what we've already been doing in previous updates with the Martini, with the Springfield explosive ammo, as well as the uppercut as we introduced it. So. And both of those go down even further than that. Again, give us some time for balancing. We'll have more details in the patch notes, and this will definitely then come also to console once 1.6 is being deployed there.
And with the weapon changes, gameplay changes being done, let's look at our new legendary coming in this update. Maybe you guys have seen it in like a little teaser of it within another teaser. So some of you may know what it is, but it is the Winfield Terminus legendary skin called Storm Chaser. And
I
it
really like this one.
It looks super cool, as well as the little skull on the table. I even know which hunter that is, probably. And it will cost 700 blood points, so you will be able to buy it in the game naturally. And
I think there was a video, right?
yeah, we do have a video, but do you want to find out about the lore first?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Go for it, Benz.
So few hunters brave the bayou when hurricane winds shake the Tupelo trees and the storm tide rises high on stilted, swaying shacks. Those that do are fond of Storm Chaser, a Winfield 1887 terminus, whose thunderous peal rings familiarly in the cacophony of the hunt.
Nice.
And with that, let's look at the video.
Exactly, those are 700 BD points. No, this is blood bonds, obviously, the premium currency.
So does that mean that a percentage just comes to my account?
Let's talk about that later, BD.
Yeah.
That looks really, really nice. I really like the leather straps type of stuff around it. Makes it
Yeah,
very
it's
strong.
amazing. And
Yeah,
the
I
lightning
was-
strike from the lore as well.
Yeah,
That's cool.
exactly.
Yeah. Let's look at one more. Okay, so that was indeed the new Terminus Legendary. I hope you guys liked it. And that's not the end of the stream, though. We still have other things to talk about. So other changes. And some of these are actually also pretty interesting. So let's start.
And here they thought just because we get to the legendary part, it's all over and that was it. Now there's even more.
But it's usually like that, so we kind of treat you. So there's still kind of a big portion of the stream. And let's start it off with the new ping markers. You know, we already had ping mark for some medkits, for the danger ping marker, the normal ping marker, ammo boxes. But now we added 6 new for different ammunition types that you can ping.
Yeah, so this is like the first set of changes. We want to do more ping marker changes moving forward, so we kind of release them in batches, and this is the first batch focusing on more granular details about the different ammunition packs. So the small packs is one. The item box now has a separate icon, as well as the special ammo, the UVU box, as we all love to call it.
Yes. And as Dennis mentioned, more are coming later.
Yeah, I think we did have an image for them, right?
Exactly. Sadly you can't really see the UVU text, but it is there, and you can see the 4 different ammo types, so shotguns, medium, long, and compact ammo, as well as the item box. And obviously the UVU box is for special ammo.
Yeah, so it makes it a bit easier to ping for specific ammunition, especially when you play with randoms. That just gives you a bit more granularity where stuff can be found if you don't have voice comms ready, and just in general to avoid confusion.
Yeah, and as you can see on the picture, like the different ammo types have the actual bullet icon, so you can easily tell which one is which. And that's it for the new ping markers, but we have a brand new bonus added to the game called the Retaliation bonus. And this is actually quite fun. So when you get killed by an enemy hunter, you can take revenge on them now, and when you loot them, you will actually receive a Retaliation bonus.
Yeah, so this obviously applies only during the same game, but let's assume a situation where you get killed or downed by an enemy hunter. Your teammates pick you up, and sometime later during that game, you actually encounter the team again, and you may have a chance to like kill the guy that killed you before. You do get this little bonus, and just gives you like these 2 upgrade points, which kind of is basically enough to buy back your health bars that you've lost during that fight. So gives you a bit of a chance to kind of like go after the guy that killed you. Maybe that might be your downfall in the end. But it's going to be a little fun mechanic that people can use and play around with.
Yeah, and before I see already questions about this, so if you can actually apply it multiple times in a game, but you have to die again to the same player, kill them again, and loot them again. So you can just like have it multiple times without the whole cycle repeating. So first you have to get killed, then you have to kill them and loot them to get the bonus.
Yeah. Obviously, it might come as a surprise for people, but obviously this doesn't work in quick play. It doesn't work when you play as a solo, because obviously there's no chance to come back from a kill there when you get down. You're dead. But at least for teams, it's quite a nice little mechanic to add on top.
And here is just like a small example image how it will look. You will have a new icon on your screen when you indeed loot someone that you killed, and he killed you before that. So that's your revenge. Awesome. Okay, then we have some changes made to the dark side.
Just give me 1 sec. So this is important, like because the question just came up again. This is for when you loot him. It's not just killing. You have to loot the body of that person then that you killed. So otherwise it would give away that you actually killed someone, right? If they would just pop out of nowhere, just shooting through some walls. You were out of range for the audio, so you wouldn't have heard him die, but you still got the message that he died because of that. So that's why you have to actually go to the body, interact with the body.
Exactly, yeah. So again, the cycle is you have to get killed, then you have to kill them and loot them to get the bonus. And as I started on a bit, we have made some changes to the dark side, and this change is mainly to increase the performance for weaker hardware as well as console. So we kind of changed the logic how dark side works in the game, and this will come with some performance increases on selected hardware, but this also has some other changes made to the visuals slightly. So you will have slightly better visibility when you are in normal dark side, as well as when you have the dark side boost. And yeah, I think the best is if we show these cases so you can actually see. So on the left, you can see the new version of Darkseid, and on the right is the old.
Now you spoiled it. I wanted to ask them if they know which one is which.
Oh, sorry.
Because in practice, nothing should really change for you guys. So there's not a big change to Darkseid for you. However, there is a change internally how we handle it. Like before, we were kind of using like to swap time of day locally for the player, etc. There was quite a bit of a, sometimes even a bit of a hacky approach because it was something we obviously built up during early access, and we finally had the chance to optimize this. So we should just in general have more stability, better performance, but also the effects have been slightly updated, it's been made more consistent, and it should overall be a slight improvement. But maybe if you don't know about it, you probably might not even notice that it changed.
Exactly. I'm just watching this once more, and then we will take a look how the dark side boost looks now, which is actually probably a more obvious change. All right. So as I mentioned, let's look at the dark side boost, and here you will notice that you can actually see the heads of the enemy hunters and their heads even.
Yeah, I think this is really awesome, like just seeing the silhouette in there. I mean, nothing has changed in the distribution, nothing has changed in the size, so this is just as it was before. But the actual graphic has been now with these like after images basically of a hunter, so you kind of see them. It reminds me a little bit on like the old movie from Take On Me, like the pencil stroke type of painting. I really love that. So it's a really nice change. I like it a lot.
And everyone seems to love it in chat as well, so we are really happy to see that. But I think that's it for the dark side changes. So as the last point, you can see the character heads as well as their hats in dark side now. So I mean dark side boost. So I hope you guys love that. And we also have another change which affects your user interface. So we have added the display of the active status effects on your HUD. So you will be able to see how long your stamina shot and antidote shot lasts for a game. And here is an example image of that, where I just zoomed in. So you can see that someone used a big antidote shot, so it will last for a long while, as well as a big stamina shot. So they will last a long time.
So you have a bit of better overview there.
Exactly, and then just where it's located on the screen when you're full screen, so it will be in the bottom left corner. And yeah, so you will be able to see
it's something as embarrassing as it might sound, we wanted to do for quite a long time, but in terms of priorities, it was never really on the top of our list. So, but we finally had a chance to get around doing that. I think it's a very good change.
Exactly, and it's also an opportunity to maybe add other things later on in this manual to the screen as well. So now the system is there. And we have some visual UI improvements. I know you guys already mentioned it when we showed the matchmaking changes. I know some of you have noticed it and actually quite liked it. So we are happy to see that. But we have brand new menu headers and all the buttons have been improved. So I will show an image in a second. And also the option to disable VoIP while spectating someone is now working properly in the menus. And let's take a look at the new buttons in a full screen mode. So as you can see, all the bigger menu buttons as well the smallest one, and basically all other buttons have been completely reworked, so they look much nicer now. Yeah, 1-star player. I'm sorry, that's the only we are not so good, you know. But yeah, and that's it for that. But we have other changes made to the UI as well, and the biggest part of is the in-game shop that has been completely refactored. So you will see in a second that we have some new tabs, as well as the organization is completely different, and more store changes will be coming in the next update as well to make it even nicer. But for now, let's take a look at what we have right now. So as you can see, tab has been added for the DLCs, so you can already see them in the game. You don't have to be separately on Steam to find them, and they will be all listed here. So in this example, you can see the Beast Hunter, you can see what's in it, the price, and also the images, and you will be able to do this for all the other DLC packs available. And I think it will help a lot of people out in general. Other than this, the Legendary Hunters tab has been reworked as well. So when you are about to purchase a Legendary Hunter, you will be on this tab where you see a list of all the Legendary Hunters as well as their model and their lore, their price, and you will be able to buy them here. And the DLC Hunters are also listed here, which will take you to the previous tab basically. And after you purchase the legendaries from this screen, you can equip them as normal from the recruitment tab, as you're used to. Here's another example from Sheriff Hardin. So you can see you can buy it now because you have enough blood bonds. This account had like 9 million, so that should be enough. And you can buy it, and then you will be able to recruit it. And obviously you get a free recruit for the first time. Also, the legendary weapons tab has been also reworked. It just looks nicer overall, as you can see here. But this works the same way as it worked until now. I think another change that has been made to the menus is that most things are in alphabetical order now by default.
Yeah, so like the background graphics are a little bit different, and just
exactly. It just looks nicer overall.
Yeah, this is actually personally one of the biggest changes for me. It's something which we wanted to like focus too much on the dev stream, but I'm gonna mention it right now. Is if you go to your arsenal and browse your equipment, this equipment is now organized alphabetically and not by other rules, where it was always a bit arbitrary, like where's this particular weapon now on the list, and sometimes it changed between updates. So this is finally really consistent. If you want to look for a Winfield, it's going to be on the bottom of the list because it's W. If you want to look for like a Bornheim, it's going to be more on top of the list. So looking and sorting through stuff in the arsenal should be much easier that way.
Exactly. And yeah, as I mentioned before, recruitment works the same way as it used to. So you will have to go to the Legendary Hunters tab as always and buy them, but you can also go to the store, which will take you to the new tabs basically from here. And I think that's for the UI changes and updates for the store, as well as in general for all the menus. Hope you guys liked it. And then we have some bug fix highlights. Keep in mind that these are just some highlighted items. We have way more bug fixes, so when we have the patch notes online, please make sure to read them. There must be a huge list of those, so please take a look at that. But let's just go through this quickly. So we had a bug where the dread screen was missing the headshot icon or displayed wrong information. These both have been fixed, which is great. Then there was another annoying bug when you could lose control over your hunter when you alt-tapped out. First of all, you shouldn't alt-tab out while playing hunt, but if you do, now you won't lose control over your characters. Then this very annoying bug I know a lot of you reported is that the poison effect could get stuck on your screen, or I mean on your player, and that has now been fixed as well, which is great. And there was another bug when you couldn't access the kill view after the hunter that killed you left the game completely, so you were not able to look at how you were killed. Now this issue has been fixed as well. And another issue that has been reported a lot is the flickering issue on the foggy missions that has been fixed as well. But again, these are just the highlights that we chose to put here, and we have way more bug fixes overall, so make sure to read the patch notes if you are interested in those. I'm sure they are already maybe posted online, so you can look at them.
Also, keep in mind that like as we are on test server, obviously additional bug fixes will be added as they become available. So yeah, just keep an eye out and maybe just check out also the final list as we go to live servers then.
Exactly. And with that, let's talk about the upcoming dev stream. I know a lot of you are excited about that one. So what will happen? So we will have another dev stream coming later this week. So it's gonna happen this week. And we will have the date announcement for the map in that stream. So you will know exactly when the map will be available on the test server after watching the stream. So make sure you attend, because it is gonna be a big one. And yeah, in this stream we will be talking with level design and art all about the new map. So we will show you all the compounds, all the needed information. You can ask your questions, and I think it is gonna be very cool. So make sure you guys tune into that stream.
Yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, it's just very important for us to run 1.6 without the map first, so that we have a chance to see about stability. We can ensure that 1.6 is not causing any issues that are unforeseen, and then that gives everybody like a much better experience once the map is becoming available. And we expect obviously a bit more of a stress on the test servers with all you guys trying to check it out. So that information will come then with the second stream.
Exactly, and everyone's saying soon. You can see that this update is quite big, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. So in size. So, and now we arrived to the questions. So guys, if you have any questions, now it's the time to ask them, and Dennis and I will try to look through them and answer some or as much as we can. So there, I see a lot of questions about the bow that you guys seen. I mean, we had a blog post posted where we mentioned an event. So, you know, just keep an eye out for that. I won't say more, but it is not in this update, but maybe it's coming soon.
One thing at a time.
Yeah. Wow. So a lot of questions. Dennis, I'm not sure if you checked on Discord if you have some collected already.
I'm going through at the moment, but if
Cool.
you have any, just post them.
Okay, so I see some about the 2D mission summary replay that we mentioned a few times. Is that still planned, or?
Can you say it again? Sorry.
Oh, the 2D mission summary.
It's still on our list. It's still, for me, it's one of the most hotly anticipated features. I can't wait for when we have a chance to actually get this out to you guys, but it will be still a bit until that's the case.
And I mean, it will fit in well with the new aftermatch screen as well, I believe so.
Yeah, I think like the new aftermatch screen is going to be also like almost like a first step in this direction. So how we always talked about this 2D mission replay feature when we talked about the roadmap in the past and explained a little bit what certain features mean, is like we want to keep information from the player during the game, and we want to reveal the mystery afterwards. And that is both true now for the changes we've done to the matchmaking transparency, so that you after the match get more information presented, even more so than you have at the moment, to make like an educated assessment of what has happened and whether it was a fair game or not. And the 2D replay in a similar way will give you the chance to kind of like relive parts. But again, we will have to talk about this at a later point when we will be ready to talk about it.
I also see a lot of questions about the pre-saved loadouts, but I think we already answered that a few times. So that is also something we definitely want in the game.
That is on the list, and that will be coming. We're working towards that. So preset loadouts is something that we have already confirmed.
Exactly. How is your day? It's been great, thank you. I hope Dennis is too. We planned a lot for the stream, so hope you guys liked it.
There was a question about whether the retaliation ticker, the retaliation like bonus you get, is actually being given multiple times. Yes, that's true. So if you get killed by a person, you get picked up and you kill that person, then you move on. That person gets picked up, kills you again. You get picked up again and kill that person again. Yes, you actually received the bonus twice, but obviously you have to run through the full sequence one more time for that to be valid. So
exactly.
Yes, you can get it multiple times. I would say it's probably rather unlikely though.
But it could happen that you get killed by 2 different players, let's say, and you kill them both later, and then you can loot them both as well. So it can happen, but it's not so likely.
There was a question whether the Dolch gets like less expensive now. No, we will keep the Dolch price as is. So we wanted to see how these balancing changes are affecting it. There's no need to approach this from 2 different angles. So first we want to just look at the gameplay and the balance there, and then based on what we figure out, that's maybe where we look at the price, but very likely we will not even touch this for 1.6 at all.
So I've seen some questions about the hunter customization / outfit selector that we mentioned a few times.
Yeah, this is still very far out, so we can't really talk about this today.
Okay. So many questions. Do you have anything from Discord?
And there's this one which is about the bear trap bug. So this is still something we're investigating. I think we do have a tentative fix. This is not 100% confirmed that it's going to be fixed. So if you notice it's still on the test server, let us know. But as far as I know, there might be multiple situations how it happens. So this is still something we're looking into. But if we're lucky, we might be able to get this all sorted out before 1.6 hits the live servers.
Does anyone have any questions about the matchmaking? Because I think that topic was somewhat complicated, so
yeah, that's maybe a good point, and maybe let's just take just a bunch of questions just about that, so we stay within that topic if there's any. Okay, there's one good one here. So what if a player leaves the match while his team is still in sight? So would he be able to relay match info such as loadouts, numbers of players, and similar, or will this screen be hidden until the team is eliminated? No, this is on an individual basis, but you won't really see loadouts or anything like that, right? You only see the number of players, you will see the team constellation. So that's obviously information that will be available to you, but you don't see what weapons these guys have. You don't see necessarily names of them, because if you haven't had any contact with them, they will just be listed as unknown players to you. So it will just be basically a chance for you to tell your teammates in case you leave early, hey, you're up against like strong or weak enemies, but then again, they're now 1 player short. So there's only so much damage you can do with that. In general, though, it's, I think, something which has much more benefit than disadvantages.
Dennis, what's your shirt?
My shirt. That's the 3rd anniversary shirt that you can buy in our shop. It's basically a celebration for the 3rd anniversary. Let me see if you can see it when I turn myself around there.
I mean, yeah, you can.
So this is basically 1 skull for every year of hunt. And I think this is one of the best shirts we ever made, because I like it really, really much.
I mean, I personally have a Necromancer shirt, which is
also good. Also good.
Yeah. And just about the shops, we actually moved most things to the Amazon shop, so make sure to look for Hunt merch on Amazon, and it's available in most regions. If you can find it, please look up our posts about it, because there's direct links to the shops where you can get the merch right on Amazon, which makes it quite simple. And talking of shops, we actually still have the Steam Summer Sale on, which ends tomorrow at 7 p.m. CST. So we have a bunch of DLCs up to 70% off as well, bundles for you guys that already own the game most likely, but for those who don't, the base game is also 50% off, so you still have like 1 day to get like huge discounts on Steam.
All right. So yeah, basically, just to maybe just recap a little bit on the matchmaking front. So the biggest change for this update is the transparency we've been adding to the matchmaking process. We've done a couple of iterations already, and there's going to be more iterations, also one on test server already, when it comes to like the bracket sizes and the rules and the details of it. So this is being optimized step by step as we go forward. order to ensure that we get the best experience for people. But the important part is that it's mostly about transparency, making you guys aware of what constitutes a fair game, where are there issues, what is your team's allocation of skill, like are you an equally skilled team of like 3 people who are on a similar level, is maybe one guy carrying the other 2, what does it mean for the matchmaking process and how the system allocates you into this with other teams and matches you with other teams. So it's just all about transparency in making this whole process a bit more transparent for you guys to understand what's going on.
Exactly. I still see a bunch of questions about console updates. As we had said previously, we are still looking into that, what we can do on that front. So hopefully we'll have more information for you on that sooner rather than later, but we cannot just say something
There's
now.
some mic echo apparently according to chat from your side, Benz.
Yeah, I noticed that I muted myself. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Ooh, too many questions. Wow. The reconnect option, I think we had talked about that like years ago already, but maybe Dennis, you want to recap?
Yeah, reconnect is just like the loadout presets, is something that we're actively working on at the moment, and so we hope to have a bit more information about it soon.
Okay, yeah, so I think that is mostly for the questions done. Event details one, we will have more info about the event, but first let's just focus on 1.6 and the new map, which is just around the corner. So please keep an eye for the other stream and the announcement regarding that, or maybe you will even see something earlier than that. So just keep an eye on our socials as always, or Discord, and you will see some great stuff there. And as always, after playing on the test servers with this update, please let us know how you feel about all the balancing changes, especially for the weapons, the Dolch, etc. Because I feel like after the map will be on test servers, it will be all about that. So it will be nice to get some info from you guys before that. So feel free to message us on Discord, leave your feedback there, or just write it on socials. And I think with that said, we are coming to the end of the stream. But before that, I just want to wish a happy birthday to Dennis, whose birthday is tomorrow. So
Oh dear.
I think in the name of the whole Hunt team and the community, we can wish a very, very nice birthday to our lovely lead designer, Dennis. So
Thank you.
Everyone wish him a nice birthday.
Oh, I got hopefully like another 40 years ahead of me.
And I think that's a great ending to the stream. So happy birthday, Dennis. Thank you everyone for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed it. See you very, very soon. Right back here. And thank you for tuning in. Yeah, happy birthday, Dennis, everyone.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. See you guys. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
So we go and slowly rise. Hold the course, the storm, the eye. Doth the boat batten the sails? Waves are strong, clouds roll in. Steady on, load your gun. Steady on, and we'll come. The sky is red, I see the face of the one who'll take my place. I say a prayer and close my eyes. My aim is true, the bullet flies. Steady on, load your gun. Steady on, and we'll come. Steady on, load your gun. Steady on. The seeds we sow, the fruit we reap. Tide of death is rising. Ain't no grave can hold me down. One foot in hell, on sacred ground. Steady on, and we'll come. Steady on, and we'll come. Oh, steady on, and we'll come. Oh, steady on. Steady on, and we'll come. Steady on, and we'll come. Oh, steady on, and we'll come. Oh, steady on, and we'll come. The tale is told, my fate is writ. I die, I weep, it starts again.